Hello everybody, it's I, Zankoku! Happy New Year, happy holidays. Yes, I know it's like January 9 or 10 or whatever, but still, I want to wish you guys a happy New Year, and hopefully during Christmas you got everything that you were expecting, and if not, well, you know, there's always next time, right? Anyways, I thought I would do my obligatory Star Wars The Force Awakens review, since that's all you see on YouTube nowadays is Star Wars this, Star Wars that, Kylo Ren is this, Rey is this, Skywalker this, that, you know, Snoke, blah. It's just a gigantic, crazy thing, and plus, I thought, you know, I'd wait a little bit, maybe, just maybe, have everyone in the world watch this movie first, and since, you know, the 9th, it opened up in China, so, hey, now, no, wait, I don't think there's any YouTube in China, though. But anyways, so, just in case that there are still, like, the 2, 3, or 4 of you who have not watched Star Wars The Force Awakens and are waiting for my opinion on it before you go out and watch it, I will break this down into 2 parts. The first part is just my general feelings about it, spoiler free, and then afterwards, spoilers abound as I get into the little nitty gritty thing. And of course, as you know me, this is probably going to be like a 30-minute video, because once I start talking movies, oh my god, it's just over again. Plus the fact that I am a big Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars. I love watching all of them, including the prequels. I mean, I know, it's crazy, but I am not maybe one of those insane fans who knows every little minor character that shows up for like 0.5 seconds on the screen. Oh yeah, that's Ambassador Talmok of the Zundar system. You know, he in the fan fiction novels or whatever. You know, I don't really get into that. I've pretty much just watched the movies, some of the TV shows, but mostly just watched the movies. There's still a lot of stuff, you know, books and whatnot. I just got a lot of stuff to go through. I can't get through all of it. Anyways, so, oh no, he's not a real fan. Real fans do that. I'm like, no. Let me just tell you this. If you like Star Wars, you're a Star Wars fan. It doesn't matter. If you even only like one of the movies, you're a fan of that movie, you're still a Star Wars fan. It doesn't matter. Whatever. You like just the action figures, you're a Star Wars fan. That's how it is. That's how fandom works. You don't have to be like levels and Grandmaster. Anyways, I'm getting off track now. Let's go get to the point. Star Wars, The Force Awakens. What did I think? I thought it was a pretty good movie. I found it thoroughly entertaining. The pacing was great. It just, kind of that 2 hours just flew by. At the end of the movie, you wanted more, and some of that was because it was so good, and some of that was because of other reasons that I'll get to. But overall, I thought the acting, performances, the characters were great. The story was probably the weakest part of the movie, but it was still enough that it's an enjoyable, entertaining, well worth the money to put down, watch it in the theater. Enough to watch it in IMAX 3D? Yeah. I mean, if you're hardcore enough, sure. But honestly, casual, you probably just want to watch it in a regular movie theater. Sometimes I feel like when you're watching things in IMAX and on 3D, that about halfway through the film, or even sooner depending on the movie, you sort of just forget you're watching it in IMAX and watching it in 3D. I guess I have to watch it in a regular theater to kind of get, you know, my impression, to see like, yeah, it's a lot smaller and not as cool. But I watched it in IMAX 3D, so, you know, I thought that it wasn't as spectacular as some other things that I've watched in IMAX. But it's still a good watch. I would suggest you go watch it. So if you're one of the 2 or 3 people who have not seen Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, go out and watch it. It's a great film. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're definitely going to like it. If you're not a Star Wars fan, what the hell are you doing watching this anyways? I mean, I guess if you like sci-fi, you probably had to have watched some Star Wars film. I mean, if you didn't like the other Star Wars films, and especially if you didn't like Episode 4, then maybe this isn't for you. But anyways, So what weak stuff am I talking about when I talk about the plot? Well, it borrows heavily. I mean heavily, to the point of almost being a copy paste of the plot of Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. It's just so many similarities, from droids holding secret messages or plans that the Empire / First Order want to get. Bad guy with a mask and a cape, you know. You've got just finding the scoundrel. You know, it's so much parallels that you can't ignore it. And now, of course, some people might say, well, it's sort of being an homage, but honestly, I don't think there's a line between being like an homage and just being a direct, like almost reboot, retelling. And yeah, they can have a little bit of artistic license, but I'm just gonna say that to me, I wanted it to be a little bit more original, but it was still fun and still good. So there it is. I recommend it. A good watch. I don't know where I'm going to put it in the echelon of Star Wars films, because I need to watch it like about several more times before I come to a consensus, but I really think that it's better than at least Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of Episode 3, so don't be all like down on it because I think it's not better than Episode 3, because to me Episode 3 is an awesome film. And that's just me, I'm a crazy guy, but I loved it. So anyways, there you go. So all those people who don't want it spoiled, the 4 of you who haven't watched it, or have lived in a cave, or come out of a coma or something, you know, here it is, time for you to leave. Now it is time to discuss the spoilery type stuff and get more into the nitty gritty of what I liked and what I didn't like. And I'm going to start with what I didn't like, because I want to end on a positive note. So here comes a bunch of stuff that I didn't like, and some of it's going to be kind of nitpicky, but that's just me and my opinions, and I'm putting it out there. Take it what you will. It doesn't mean I hated the film. I loved the film. Let's get that straight. Love the film. Just, you know, it's not immune to criticism. And for the people who bash the prequels and sort of give a pass to this movie, you know, I go, you guys got to look in the mirror, guys. Because yes, I know the prequels, for the most part, weren't that great, but they were still entertaining and fun, and Star Wars. And to kind of go and say, oh, you know, Episode 7 is the greatest of all time is a little much. So, once again, let's talk about that plot. That plot is basically Star Wars: A New Hope. From the fact that you've got Jakku, which is a desert planet, out in the middle of nowhere. People are kind of poor and struggling, and it's kind of lawless. Just like Tatooine, you've got the droid. The 2 droids, R2-D2 and C-3PO, who got the plans to the Death Star. They're there running away from the Empire, trying to capture them. You've got BB-8, the droid that has the map, or part of the map, to Luke Skywalker, and the First Order's trying to get it. And when you think about it, the plot is really simple when you break it down. We've got the plan, the route. First Order finds us, gotta run. We're at the new place, First Order finds us, gotta run. At the new place, First Order finds us, gotta run. I mean, that's basically the whole thing. And then, of course, blow up a Death Star. Yes, we have another Death Star, the Star Killer, named after what Luke was going to be originally named, Luke Star Killer, but now he's the Star Killer base, and I guess the Force Unleashed video game, his last name was Star Killer. Well, anyway, Star Killer base blows up planets and seems like entire systems now by draining stars. Very samey, you know. It's like, come on, can't we have a different trope, a different ultimate weapon? I know, yes, the power to blow up a planet is pretty dang big. How do you get any bigger than that? Well, you can become creative. And think of other things. I mean, honestly, you didn't have a Death Star in the greatest Star Wars of all time, and that was Empire Strikes Back. So you don't necessarily need the Death Star to be like, you know, to have, you know, the conflict and the stakes. I mean, the stakes were very high. in Empire Strikes Back. So there's that. Another thing was wasted characters. I mean, here we go. Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma. She has like, what, 2 lines? What, 3 lines? I mean, she just shows up. She's badass, chrome, trooper, and what do they do with it? Nothing. She folds over like a bitch at the end. Like, okay, yeah, I'll deactivate the what do you call it? The force field, and you know, don't kill me. I mean, put up a fight. I know, like maybe in episode 8 she'll have a bigger role and she'll actually kick some ass. I know there's that scene with what is that, TR8R or whatever they want to call him, Schrader, whatever, the guy with the baton that fights Finn. That would have been awesome if that was Captain Phasma, like, hey, Schrader, and then just kick his ass, because, you know, that's who Captain Phasma is an ass-kicking awesome person, and we never got any sense of that because it was so brief and totally unutilized. Another thing is the character, his name's Poe, I guess, and the pilot, he shows up like at the beginning and basically at the end, and he seems like a cool character, some like, you know, suave, roguish type of guy, almost like the new Han Solo, but we don't get any real like story with him for the most part, so he can't really be the new Han Solo, even though I guess, you know, Han Solo's the Han Solo of this movie, but he's dead. Oh, spoiler alert, Han's dead. Yes, and we need a replacement, and maybe in episode 8, once again, it's and that's one of the things also that I'm going to talk about, is it seems like a lot of it is just set up for episode 8, which is okay. You've intended it to be a trilogy. I can understand that, but it also feels a little half-assed. You kind of want it to be a complete encapsulated story, as well as be a setup, and it just felt kind of lazy. The fact that you're almost copy pasting the episode 4 is kind of lazy and kind of safe. It almost felt like they were like, well, you know, we got to do it like this to make it feel like the old trilogy, and therefore, you know, that's what the fans want. We can't just take too many risks, and so we're going to play it a little safe, which is, you know, that's not what Star Wars is about. Star Wars is about taking risks and creating a large universe and an interesting universe. And that's one of the things that the prequels hit out of the park, was that you got a sense that the galaxy was huge, that there was all these places, these different worlds and different races. And honestly, the first trilogy and episode 7, they were kind of small universes, and episode 7 kind of shrinks the galaxy, because you don't go to that many interesting places. You don't meet all that many interesting different races and cultures. And so, yeah, it was sort of a shrinking down, and it was sort of a safe thing to do. But honestly, you know, you look at the prequels, you got Naboo, you've got Geonosis, you've got Mustafar, you've got Camino, you've got I want to say Corellia, but no, Coruscant. You have all these places. You go to Kashyyyk, all these interesting places. The Jedi have all kinds of different aliens doing all kinds of wonderful things. And yes, I know it's kind of like, you know, regular human centric, but you got this eclecticness that was grander, and it wasn't as much in episode 7. It was kind of almost like a retraction of the series in a way, just kind of shrunk it down a little bit, and I found that kind of disappointing. So what do we had plot not really unique. You had throwaway characters, a shrinking of the galaxy. One of the things that I didn't like it. Oh, part of the also shrinking of the galaxy is when you're watching the battle scenes between the TIE fighters of the First Order and the X-Wings of the Resistance, used to be called the Rebellion. It's like, where are the variety? Because they're all just like straight up TIE fighters and straight up X-Wings. Where are the B-Wings and the Y-Wings and the A-Wings? Where are the TIE interceptors and bombers? I mean, in a way, it's like, where it's like we can't venture out and show this stuff yet. We gotta hold it back. It's like, if we can't just blow the whole thing right now and just, we have to be safe and encapsulated, see what people like, and then expand upon it afterwards to see if it was a success first before we try to do something bold and daring, which in the end is kind of, once again, scared, somewhat lazy. I wanted to see a bit more out of that. I mean, we didn't really have any kind of like fleet battles or anything like that. The new Star Destroyer, I don't even know if that's what they're called, but those ships, I kind of miss the old-fashioned looking Star Destroyers, but those are still pretty cool. But somewhat underutilized also. So, that being said, all those kind of, I guess there's another small little nitpicky thing, and that's the whole thing that it was 30 years removed from the rebellion. And in that 30 years, and the original trilogy does this too, they make it sound like those things that happened in the past, and they haven't been that long, are like already legend or myth. There's like, maybe they didn't happen. When they talk about the rebellion and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, they're like mythical beings. They're like legends. They're not really like real people. They're things you heard about in whispers and stories, but you weren't sure that they actually happened or really existed, which is kind of crazy because in kind of the same context, Episode 4 made it sound kind of like the Jedi were like from 1,000 years ago, and that the whole Force thing is an ancient religion that no one follows for like the last 100 years, even though that was only 20 years removed during the New Hope, that the whole Clone Wars and Jedi and the fall and the rise of the Empire. And it just seems like really weird, really misplaced. It's almost like people talking about World War II as if it was just like a mythological thing. Like people like Patton, Eisenhower, Winston Churchill, Stalin, Hitler were people that you only hear about like in legend and myth, and you don't really think that they may have existed. You don't know. And that's kind of crazy. Not enough time has passed to make that sort of epic. And so I don't know why they try to force that type of thing in there, but that's just a small little nitpick that I've had since the beginning. But there you go. Overall, though, those things are small, and while they detract and keep it from being like the best, it's still not enough to totally make it like horrible. Where I'm like, I can't even deal with this. Oh, where's the A-wings? My goodness. Is Phasma going to show up anytime? No, I wasn't doing that. So what about the positive things? And the first thing that always comes to mind is the characters. Aside from the two that were kind of wasted, the characters are really great. I mean, Rey, Finn, those characters were really compelling, really relatable. You had Kylo Ren, which is an interesting monster of a villain. More depth than Darth Vader had originally. Like, if you look at just Episode 4, his character, he's just a bad guy who tries to, force choke people. At least Kylo Ren, you've got a lot of depth already built in, with him being Han's son, and him being the Jedi that broke up Luke's dream of reinstating the Jedi Temple and everything like that. So there's like a lot of weight to that character already. And, some people complain that he's kind of whiny and insolent. I mean, he's a young character, and honestly, young males, when they're being all that emo, they do come off as kind of whiny, bitchy little brats. I mean, that's the problem that happened with Anakin's character. He just, came off as a whiner, and that's the problem is, of course, when you're like 60 or 50 or 40, you can seem a bit more contemplative, and people temper that with maturity and see conflict without, it looking like he's whining. But when you see a young guy doing it, you're thinking that whippersnapper youngin' don't know shit. What does he got to know about suffering? He's just barely alive. So there is that, but I can allow that to not cloud anything. And honestly, I didn't think it was like really bad. I mean, there are times where you'll like want to kill someone by just going like, shut up, man, just shut up and die already if it's that bad. But with this, it's not. I enjoyed Kylo Ren's character. Han Solo, what's not to love about Han Solo? Also, what was really good about the film was that they put all these great comical moments sprinkled throughout. It wasn't like it was rip-roaring comical movie, but they found a good way to sprinkle in that humor to help break some of the tension and some of the action, give you some moments of levity, which is always welcome and adds to the fun enjoyment of the movie. I like the battles. Even though, like I said, there wasn't variety in the spacecraft, I still like the battles. I like the battle that happened at what was that, Maz Kanata's place, and then of course, you know, the Starkiller base. Those were fun, entertaining, exciting. It almost harkened back to the old what do you call it? Empire Strikes Back, the Battle of Hoth, where, you know, we sort of never got. I mean, sure, there was the hand-to-hand combat thing going on Endor, but that was with Ewoks. But we never really got that kind of battle feel like we did here with Maz Kanata's battle, where we had troops on the ground and fighters in the air. And so I thought that was really well done and exciting. And honestly, I'm like losing my what I'm trying to say. Like all the good stuff is the characters are the strongest part, and they always have been the strongest part of Star Wars. Yes, you know, you have space battles and epic motifs and all that good stuff, but it's always came down to characters, whether or not you felt for them, believed them and their struggles, and were interested in that world and these people. And I think they did a good job of allowing you to be interested. Sure, it wasn't perfect. There were some times, like, I thought Finn was kind of like forced. He was a bumbling idiot at first and then became sort of a badass toward the end, which I thought kind of happened a little too quickly, but hey, there is. I know that a lot of people complain that Rey is like a Mary Sue because she's like all of a sudden like a badass and good at everything. But if you think about it in context, she wasn't born. She was left on this desert planet, which is a rough place. So she had to grow up fast, and she had to like learn trade. If she's salvaging, she has to know what parts do what and what parts are valuable, what parts are not. So she kind of has to know the inner workings of spaceships and other vehicles. She has to know how to kick ass and take care of herself, because if she has stuff, other people will try to take it if she's weak. So she has to like learn how to like fight people off. So when there's that scene where she's fighting off those guys, it's not like, oh, she's automatically badass. No, she's probably had to do that several times in her life. And of course, you know, being Force sensitive also helps. But also, you've got the thing is, the vehicle she has, she probably had to kind of almost repair it. It doesn't look like she had enough money to like straight up buy that type of stuff. So she probably worked like repairs, the ins and outs, knows her way around a ship, and that explains her knowledge and the ability to fly. And of course, you know, the Force helps with reaction time and stuff like that. And honestly, that last battle between her and Kylo Ren, you know, people are going like, you know, there's no way that she could have like held her own. She's just, you know, learning the Force. So, well, first of all, Kylo Ren got shot. You know, you try battling while getting yourself shot. Plus the fact that the whole beginning of it, she's sort of running away and playing real defensively. It wasn't until she had nowhere to go that she kind of closes her eyes and lets go and allows the Force to like control her actions, because the Force can control your actions. And it also obeys your commands, but, you know, she was able to defeat a weakened, not 100% Kylo Ren because of those type of things. So I didn't think that was anything to take away from the story and cheapen the story. I thought those were actually in place. Like I said, the Finn thing, a little bit, you know, too fast. But other than that, enjoyable. I think the character of Maskanata was an interesting character. CG, somewhat noticeable, but still not like jarring. Not like the old Jabba the Hutt from the original special editions, not the touched up later versions. But yeah, that one was some really bad CGI. But overall, once again, a strong, fun movie. That, yeah, it has its problems, it has its weaknesses, but overall, it's a good, enjoyable, fun time. As for some of the theories out there, I would be very upset if Rey ended up being Luke Skywalker's daughter, because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that, given on what we think the timeline is and where Kylo Ren kind of, did his thing, it just doesn't make sense that his daughter would be abandoned so young. And also, if it happened afterwards and it was a mind thing, I just don't like. I don't like it. Can't she just be a Force-sensitive person? Because all throughout history, before the Skywalkers showed up, there was a lot of Force-sensitive people. And could it just be someone that just is Force-sensitive? I mean, why can't we have that? And there's like this whole crackpot theory that Luke's the father and Phasma's the mother. I mean, if that's it, man, I don't know. I'm just that'd be kind of crazy. But so I'm hoping that she's just completely an original character. Another thing is everyone's talking about Snoke being Darth Plagueis, and while I don't see that based on what I think of the character of Darth Plagueis, based on just Episode 3, because it almost sounded like he was like a guy who really cared about people so much that he wanted to keep them from dying. And it just doesn't sound like as evil as a guy can be. And honestly, the reason I think he got killed by his apprentice was probably because he went, I'm not going to share this knowledge with you because I don't think you can handle it right. And then the guy would get angry and kills him out of rage. So I don't see him as Darth Plagueis, at least in that context, as being like, someone who wants to watch the world be destroyed and become like the supreme leader. But if he is, then yeah, I guess, when you're talking about just the tragedy of Darth Plagueis, it can make him look, better than he really was. But if that's the truth, then it does open up a whole can of other things, like, he could bring Han Solo back to life, or, he could do this or that. And other than being like a completely original idea, which is also begs the question of like, what was he doing during the entirety of the Empire? If he was such a big guy, wouldn't he have been kind of fighting against Palpatine? So, I mean, I could go either way with the Plagueis thing. I would kind of like him to be somewhat an original character, but it's not as bad as a thing as if Rey is a Skywalker. So, I could say that. Other than that, I think that's really it about the sort of theories and whatnot. But I am definitely looking forward to Episode 8, seeing maybe Luke Skywalker kick some ass, wondering who Benicio del Toro's character is going to be. Some people throw out things like, he's like a higher up Sith-like, I mean, the Knights of Ren aren't supposed to be Sith, so he could be like a higher guy up in the Knights of Ren, a superior to Kylo, who's like there to like, okay, he kind of failed. Skywalker, Starkiller Base destroyed, and you kind of blew it with Rey, and I'm gonna take over and show you, and kind of have like a little rivalry, animosity between the two, things like that, maybe. But other than that, there you go, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, solid film, and. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully it wasn't like 42 minutes. I mean, I've seen some of those videos out there where there's the spoiler reviews and it's like an hour and a half. I'm like, I mean, you really are getting into the nitty gritty at that point. But then again, it's also shows where there's several people and they're each giving their opinions and stuff. So yeah, it's going to take longer because of that. But I thought I'd give my thoughts, my opinions, and I want to hear what you guys think. I want you to put in the comments what you thought about The Force Awakens, whether you liked it, and if you did, what'd you like about it, and if you didn't like it, what you didn't like, and vice versa. You know, just give me what you thought about it, what you liked, what you didn't like. I'm very interested to see what you guys want to talk about in that sort of situation. You know, whether you agree with me that it was a little bit too samey, that you wanted it to be a little bit more original and maybe bigger, or you totally disagree and you think I'm a complete idiot. Either way, I wanna know. So leave a comment, tell me what you think, and looking forward to episode 8. Hopefully you guys are too. And we got an anthology movie, Rogue One, to kind of slate our thirst for slake our thirst, whatever. Anyways, in the meantime, for Star Wars. So until then, everybody, I am going to say, stay Force powered, Internet.